block internet websites hosting pornographic contents and sanction defaulting internet service providers, standing in the name of Honorable Alatu Shehu Tafoki. Honorable Tafoki is invited to move the motion.
Mr. Speaker, very distinguished colleagues, I remain Honorable Engineer Shehu Alatu Tafoki, representing Paskari, Kankara Sabwa, Federal Constituency. I'm from Katsina State. I rise to move a motion for the need to block internet website hosting pornographic content and sanction defaulting internet service providers. The House notes that cyber pornography is fast becoming a global problem and no concrete steps have been taken to curb the phenomenon of cyber pornography in Nigeria. Aware that Nigeria is a highly religious country and all the major religions in the country have forbidden nudity and obscenity in any form. Also note that countries across Asia, Africa, and the Middle East have enacted legislation that ban pornography in their domains. Aware that renowned psychologists and sociologists around the world have issued stern warning on this psychological, sociological, and mental consequences of viewing pornography contents. Concerned deeply that some of the immediate effects of viewing pornography contents include A, causing deception in marriage and which may later on affect family life. B, promoting adultery, prostitution, and many oral expectations that can result in dangerous, promiscuous behavior. C, leading to addiction, escalation, desensitization, and the acting out sexually by one person. D, change of attitude toward oneself and his family. Resolve 2. 1. Urge the Nigerian Communication Commission, NCC, to direct the internet service providers operating in the country to take immediate steps to block all websites that host obscene and pornography content. 2. Also urge the Nigerian Communication Commission to apply the full rigors of the Nigerian Communication Act and National Information Technology Development Act, NIDA, against the defaulting internet service providers. And finally, mandate the Committee of Communication and Legislative Compliance to ensure implementation and report within 4 weeks for further legislative action. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Honorable Dr. Gali.
Right, Honorable Speaker, Honorable colleagues, my name is Dr. Gali Mustafa Tijani. I represent Alabasu Guarding Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion as moved by my colleague. I so second.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay.
Amendments. Amendment, Mr. Speaker.
I will put the question again. Those in support of this motion should say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. This motion is referred to the Committees on Communication and Information for further legislative action. The eighth order of the day.
Some Nigerian men not go like this video, and I don't think I actually really care. Many of una they support Senator Natasha today. It is because she accused Senate President of prick and total basbos. Yes. Now because in a person where they House of President, House of Governor, politician. That's why many of you are supporting her. I beg you, we used to and prick te begu now. You see this energy wanna carry follow Senator Natasha, so make una spread them a beg. Make it reach my body, make it reach another woman body, make it reach all the women body. Because una know say as far as our society is concerned, women and children are the most vulnerable. You dey feel me now? Not just support Natasha today and that's the end of it. If now another person come on and for that they say, you have to hear for this side, you have to hear for this side. The way the woman is talking, I think she's lying. I support the men because men don't come out to say, women can just fabricate and tolerate. Many of you, you know yourself. If you know you are the one I'm talking to, you are the one. If you are not the one, then you are not the one. Many of you now, they join her now. They say, yeah, she have proof. That's why she go this far. Oh my God, Jesus Christ, Nazareth. It's because he's somebody in government. We know you people. You people can never support her. You think you men don't do anything wrong. You will blame the woman. Some of these people, they come out, her beauty is the problem. Oh, it's because you are wearing pants. Nah, it's because of what you're wearing. As a woman, you need to know how to dress. People, they wear pants, they go river, they go places. Nothing they happen to them. Senator Natasha, fully covered. She's not in a shower like us now. This is a woman when she they go as Senate enemy. She's fully covered. Yet, una icy penetrate, enter inside her body. So you say you Nigerian men, you are supporting her because in a person with the government. Now she accused of pre-canto assault. If now your faith, now she accused, it's a garret. Una go down they know where to now don't they talk since. If now ordinary person, oh, you need to hear from the woman's side. You need to hear from the man's side. The way the man talk, I believe the man. Women, they are wahala too much. When she's crying and falling on the ground, still not believe her, she's lying. Men, Nigerian men, this is my thinking. I think you people support this woman because I see comment section, I'm like, are these Nigerian men, I be at the tummy, I be at the pepper me, I be another sea road. Are these Nigerian men supporting this woman, accusing this man of pre-canto assault? Abego, make una spread this energy, ma you heya you wawala wo. Idigwe maje, we can't beg una. Make una spread this energy, make it reach everywhere, every woman body. I beg, tima imia una ye na because. Me, I don't understand, and this support that she's getting, she's gonna keep getting it. Make una spread and I be my own. Senator Natasha get money to go New York, enemy of state, go report for that side. Me not get. So it's other women where the Nigeria not get. But we are using her as a point of contact to you people. Wala wo wo. Make una spread this energy. Wala. We used to tote beg una. Nigerian men. Why always say una do wanna thank you? Make una spread that like this so wala wo wo. I be me we need that. Omo carry breast come out which one? Eh? Hey.
Now I represent here North. Mr. President, the later part of number 6 talks of withdrawal of all security details for the duration of her suspension. Mr. President, I want to believe that we still feel we are one. And any injury to any of us should be injury to all. I believe withdrawal of security aids at this moment from a senator is not the best way to go. And we should not really create a precedence where the moment something happens with a member of the National Assembly, the security agencies will say withdraw the security aids, because this could be a problem to us later. So I just want us to reflect on this.
If your security is given to you as a leverage to your being a senator, then there will be no need for them to hang around with you when you are no longer a senator. In other words, if you are no longer a president of the Senate, you cannot continue to sit in the car of the President of the Senate. I was with you in the villa the day you declared support for me. And I saw you off as a sign of respect as the outgoing Senate President. When we got to the vehicle, you just pointed out and said, this will be withdrawn from me tomorrow. I will come to your house. after you win. so if you are telling me that, assuming I had failed that day, would that vehicle come to my house?
Well, Mr. Senate President, I don't want it to be like I'm trying to make a case, but I believe that this is a suspended senator. not someone who ceases to be a senator. It's suspension.
But without arguing with you,
my case. Yes.
Without arguing with you, let me remind you, you are a landlord in the Senate or in the National Assembly. Do you remember a senator that was called Oton Zeribe? A distinguished senator who was one of the richest people in southeastern Nigeria. And when he entered into the Senate, he carried along on his shoulders his wealth. May his soul rest in peace. When he was suspended, the Senate took steps to withdraw all his security. And when he refused to apologize to the Senate, he stayed out of the Senate for over 2.5 years until the end of that tenure. We are starting a journey now. And the journey depends on your attitude.
Officer of a state, in this case the governor of Rivers State, Sim Fubara, deliberately locked out of the State House of Assembly by security staff. How belittling is that? They might as well have put up a sign at the gate saying, "No access for Governor Sim Fubara." That was the kind of monstrous drama that unfolded in Port Harcourt earlier today. The governor said he wrote to the lawmakers, informing them of his intention to come and present the budget as ordered by the Supreme Court and by the Assembly members themselves. He said he even telephoned the Speaker, Martin Zamewole, though it's not clear if he answered his phone. In any case, the governor turned up with sirens blaring, but the gates were securely locked in his face. Recall that 24 hours earlier, the governor had invited the Assembly members to a meeting, but they didn't show. And now there are stories flying around, which the governor's political enemy, the Minister of Abuja, Nyesom Wike, has done nothing to dispel, suggesting that impeachment proceedings against the governor are in the works. But the governor's supporters aren't having it. No power can remove the governor, they say, until his constitutionally allotted time ends. So, what now and what next? Well, for his assessment, I'm joined now in the studio by the APC governorship candidate in the 2023 election, Tonya Cole. Good to see you again.
Always good to see you, Charles.
Before we get into the mess of Rivers State, I understand you've been living it up, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro.
We had challenges to overcome, and that was one that I needed to overcome, because the mountains called Nigeria and Rivers State, we have to overcome.
Well, that's a good way to put it, actually, because I was going to say that if you can climb Mount Kilimanjaro, then the crisis in Rivers State could well end up being a piece of cake.
Everything is a mountain, and everything needs to be conquered, this inclusive.
Well, let's talk about that, because the governor turns up at the Assembly quarters today, and they locked him out, claiming he didn't inform them beforehand, even though he said he did. I mean, how extraordinary is all that?
Charles, you know, I'm looking forward to the day when we would be called to come and discuss progress in Rivers State, how Rivers State has turned into an economic mecca and everyone is coming and businesses are coming. What you are seeing today is pure power play. And at the end of the day, the people suffer, Rivers State suffers. We're not going to get any investment coming into Rivers State at this point. So the governor being locked out is purely a statement being made to him that you may have the title of governor, but you don't govern the state. The power has shifted. And that's what's being said loudly and clearly. And I don't think it's good. It doesn't portend well for us.
Indeed. And it doesn't look good at all from the point of view of a country that is trying to entrench democracy. It seems to undermine it fundamentally. But let's try and look at it as objectively as we can, because that's what we're supposed to do here. I mean, could it be seen, and there's an argument being made to that effect, as a breach of legislative procedure by the executive? Because basically it would have meant suspending the rules of the House to admit him into the chamber, which would have required some form of process.
I don't think so. Because at the end of the day, I believe that he had been ordered, more or less, to come and make a presentation of a budget within a particular point in time. Now, there was a letter that was written by the secretary to the state government, which they said should not have been written by him or signed by him or whatever. In every government where there is peace between the legislature and the executive, you don't see any of this. What we have here is a full-scale, full-blown declaration of war on both sides, no quarters given, and that's what we're saying, and people will bleed for that.
So it is your sense then that even though the Assembly gave him an ultimatum to present the budget, he turns up to do so and then they lock him out, that they should have given him in the circumstances, even if it is against legislative procedure, because they didn't even have him on the order sheet of the day, they would have given him special dispensation.
So let's take what the governor says. If the governor says that I called, I wrote, and they knew I was coming, it's then the place of the legislature to put him on the order of the day. It's not the governor that will put his name on the order of the day. So someone did not do it. Now let's just assume, for the sake of assumptions, that a clerk, somebody forgot to do that, and the governor shows up. By virtue of who he is, his office, that gate should have been opened. So this was deliberate, and this was a statement. It was no one was playing games here. They were saying, you're not welcome here, you're not the governor, you will obey the rules according to how we set it, not how anyone else sets it.
Yes, I'm inclined to agree to some extent with your assessment, because I mean we had this reporter who was inside the building, the complex, when it happened, and he said that the security people and some of the assemblymen had actually come to tell them at least 15 minutes or 20 minutes before the governor arrived. They were clearly aware that he was arriving, and that they had come to tell them to say, we're going to lock the gates. And so they proceeded to lock the gates. So the problem here that makes the situation appear intractable is that the assembly members don't seem to want to reconcile. I mean, they seem to want to fight and to defeat the governor rather than reconcile the situation, which a lot of people thought was, you know, what everybody was aiming towards, that they'd fixed the situation. You know, Supreme Court makes a decision, the governor says, okay, we'll obey the Supreme Court order, let's now, you know, proceed. And these guys don't want to do that. I mean, is that the impression that you're getting?
So the governor he does not have a choice. He has to obey and that's the way it should be. But one of the things that we see is that there has always been somehow in Nigeria this ability to choose which laws to obey, which ones not to obey, which court judgment to obey, and which one not to obey. And I think that we are seeing that at play here. There are certain cases that have been made within Rivers State that have been totally ignored, and others which have to be obeyed. In this particular case, the governor has done the right thing by obeying it. Now, having obeyed it, the other side now has to do the honorable thing of allowing him, you've caned him, you've deflated him, you've won your case in court. It's time to allow the man to breathe.
I mean, do you think that, and I know this is, you know, this is purely conjecture, but do you think that if you had won the governorship election, that this whole thing would not have been the way that it is?
Absolutely different. Yeah.
For the simple reason that you had no godfather leanings with Mr. Wike, or would he have, as some people have said, I mean, some have alleged that he has this overbearing character and he kind of believes that the state belongs to him, and therefore that he would have been perhaps not as interventionist, but certainly to some extent meddlesome in your affairs.
No, I don't think so. I think it would have been a very different dynamics. I think why the dynamics is so poisonous in this particular case is that the Honorable Minister Wike believes, and rightly so, that he paid for everything, he did everything, he did all the campaigning, he single-handedly selected, and he said this. I'm not saying anything he hasn't said. And he did all of this. That's a fact. It's a fact. So he said that, he's made it a fact. And as a result of that, then the determination as to how the state will be run is his. Had I won, that would not
And that was the agreement.
And Let's assume it's the agreement.
I mean, because that appears to be what this whole thing is about.
Exactly. And so SIM goes around, His Excellency goes around, and for whatever reason, that agreement is broken. And since the day that agreement is broken, there has been no peace in Rivers State at all. In my case, it would have been totally different, because in the first instance, there would have been no agreement of that sort there. And in which case, we'll be sitting down opposite each other and discussing. Now, my belief 100% is that everyone who, one way or another, has attained a position of governor, regardless of how they got there, right, deserves a place at the table to discuss the development of Rivers State. And so Wike would have had a place to sit at the table in the development of Rivers State if I was there. That's one thing I believe. There's no one who attains a position of that level that has zero to add to the state.
Indeed.
So everybody has something to add. One of the challenges we have in Rivers State today is that everybody who becomes governor wants to cut off everybody else who has ever been near there. They destroy their projects, destroy their heritage, break everything down so that it's only about me. And I think that's very wrong, and that's what we're seeing. So I would have been a totally different governor. Wike would have had a place. Sim would... Wike, Odili, Amechi, Ada George, everyone who has attained that position will sit down to discuss how do we develop this state. Because Rivers State must be developed. We've been taken back. Charles, at the end of this crisis, whenever it ends, right, we would have gone back, we would have lost at least 30 years of development, at the very least, by the end of this. How do we make that up?
Yeah, it's very disheartening, isn't it? But I would imagine that given that you are now a politician, that this, to some extent, might be the impetus for you to give it another go in 2027.
So I've always said that I'm not going anywhere. I'm in politics. And as the opportunities open up for me, I'm there to run. So I'm not shying away from any opportunity that politics brings. However, what we see on the table today is that we have a governor and he's fighting for his life. Where that ends up, I have no idea. Is he going to be impeached? That seems to be the way it's going. Can he negotiate himself out of an impeachment? It's very possible. Could the president step in and decide that, you know what, leave him to stay there for his time and let him try his luck in 2027? Many things can happen. One of the things that I've learned in politics is that a day is a long time. Anything can happen within a day.
But are there things that, I mean, to be entirely fair and sort of down the middle, are there things that the governor is doing that perhaps are getting in the way of fixing this problem? Because Nyesom Wike held a media chat today, and one of the things he talked about was the fact that if you are in a political position, such as the governor is, that you must be a master of compromise, and therefore that the governor could approach members of the assembly without sort of cameras and things all over the place. For example, when they sent him a letter giving her an ultimatum to come and give the deliver the budget, he could have just said to them, I mean, approached them and said, look, it just won't be possible in the next 24 hours or 48 hours. Can we do it on this date? And kind of humanize the process. Is that something that you think that he's kind of been forced with his back against the wall?
So it's a good point that the Honorable Minister has made there. Politics is all about compromise.
Indeed.
And sitting down and working something out. So on that, I would agree with him that option, if that option is on the table, can be exploited, should have been explored. If it wasn't explored, then it's a mistake and should be explored. However, the question is that, did he try to exploit and was he pushed back? I don't know.
Yeah.
I hear the minister say that he should do this. I agree. The question is, because Sim did say, the governor did say that he called to inform the speaker that he was going to call.
Yeah, but you know, so what you do is nothing. How you do it is everything.
I agree.
And that really is key.
I agree.
But I mean, the other issue here, and I think somebody raised this previously, is that there does seem to be an issue, and I suppose it's just on the face of it, But it's become a talking point. There seems to be an issue with correspondence in Rivers State. I mean, the Assembly writes to the governor to say, we're giving you an ultimatum to present the budget, but the governor says he didn't get it. Then the governor writes to the Assembly, inviting them to a meeting, and the Assembly says they didn't get it, and subsequently, oh, well, he didn't sign it. Some said they didn't get it, others said he didn't sign it. Then the governor turns up today saying he wrote to them, telling them he's coming, but they said they didn't get his letter. I mean, somebody mentioned this point. They said, are all the addresses of both the State House, you know, and the Assembly all mixed up in Rivers State? I mean, what is this a deliberate attempt?
Charles, it's very deliberate.
You know, to slight a political opponent, basically.
So, I mean, it goes without saying, right, that everybody knows everybody. And if I wanted to get a letter across to you, I would know how to get it to you, who to get it to, and all of that. So when things like this happen, it's very deliberate. So you are seeing very, very deliberate steps to demean, to demote, to disgrace, and just to make sure a process does not work. And I think at some point, this has to stop. If you ask me, the two warring parties, it's not those around Sim, it's not those around Wike. The two warring parties at the end of the day is His Excellency Sim Fubara and His Excellency Nyesom Wike. You ask me, pick up the phone, call each other, and figure out how does this work. Something broke. Something has to be repaired. But if the people of Rivers State are going to benefit anything at all, then those two have to reconcile.
I noticed that President Tinubu appeared to have intervened again, but seems to have spared his minister, Nyesom Wike, any chastisement or blame in this crisis, but apparently reserved all the focus for Governor Fubara. In a political crisis such as this, I mean, he's from your party, the APC. Did that come across as fair to you?
I would always say that in this kind of scenario, both parties have to give up something, okay? And where it seems as if it's only one-sided, then you will find the kind of scenario that we have where the one party will feel that I'm not giving up anything. Why am I the one to compromise? And another one is saying, no, give up everything first and let's speak. My take is that the president has taken a step to reconcile, or at least to bring an end to this, which is what we have been saying from day one, that if there's anyone at all who can bring this to an end, is the president. However, the president needs to say to both parties, you're going to give up something.
Yeah, but you would have thought, sorry to interrupt you, that a crisis where I mean, it seems very clear, because you yourself have seen the clarity of it. I mean, a crisis where a past governor is trying to continue to exert enormous, almost absolute influence on Rivers State, and is essentially trying to use the executive governor as merely a proxy in that regard. You would have thought that the president would say, well, you can't do this. I mean, I don't know what he says to them behind the scenes, but he certainly is not saying that in public. So, and he's a defender of democracy.
True, he is a defender of democracy, and I don't know whether he has decided that Rivers State must be solved by Rivers State, but I don't think that Rivers State can be solved by Rivers State. If I were to give a suggestion, then it would be this, right? Sim Fubara has about 1.5 years left, right, to run any kind of governance. The people of Rivers State desperately need a government. Allow him stay, right? Set out the conditions for which he will stay. Maybe keep some commissioners. There has to be some give and take. He cannot be put in a situation where he's a lame duck governor from now, and all he does is sign a document. Nothing will move. It's just a mess. And of course, what you would see is that the entire jaws and all of that, if he decides that there is going to be impeached, will be a problem. So we cannot go down the impeachment line, and at the same time, you cannot go down the lame duck line.
Right.
So something has to be done. And I think this is where the president needs to then step in and say, okay, look, The only way out of this crisis is that we're going to get to 2027. When we get to 2027, this is what we're going to do, whatever it is we're going to do. However, between now and then, Rivers State has to be governed like this. You have this, you have that. Just
right. I mean, that there is a school of thought that rather suggests that all this, from the president's point of view, has to do with 2027, that he feels, and I can't obviously predict what he thinks, but this is what is making the rounds, that he rather feels that Minister Nyesom Wike has a handle on the situation in terms of voting capacity in Rivers State, and that he needs to have that state delivered to him in 2027, which is why he's essentially allowing this kind of, you know, in the minds of some people, excess to continue.
I think that would be a miscalculation, and I don't think that that's true. But I think that would be a miscalculation. It's very difficult for anybody to predict the dynamics of how a state would be. Okay, and there are other political actors that are within that state that would either go for or against you. So it's not that easy. And I know, I mean, I've run election twice in Rivers State, and I know that at each time, the point where the election was changed was not at the ground level. So there's always a place where elections may swing away from you, and I'm using these words very carefully. But
yeah.
So there's a place where
you could tell a few stories there.
So
right?
there's a place where that inflection can happen, and it depends on who is in control at that point.
Yeah, but that's the point. He seems to think that Nyesom Wike is the one who pulls that straight.
That's what I'm saying. It's not that easy.
But is it your sense that Minister Wike has, for now, got the upper hand in this crisis? With the apparent support of President Tinubu, he's essentially now won this fight, or at least this round of the fight.
So better rounds. So the politics, Rivers State politics, it's a table tennis game, ping pong. Okay, so every time there's a particular round, on this particular round, what did the Supreme Court say? The Supreme Court says that go back to status quo, allow them to stay up until the point where they're determined if they're still members of APC or not. So for now, that's around. I have no idea what the court will say as to whether they're still members, are they still, that's another determination to come. And so we have a round now that has swung towards Wike's side. And I believe at this point in time, they need to come back and say, okay, you know what? Let us now figure out how we're going to work this. But if we're going to go down this line of take everything and fight everything, then you get opposition. Somebody will oppose you.
And of course, as we mentioned at the intro, Minister Wike made what some see as a rather inflammatory statement today, to the effect that heaven won't fall if the Assembly decide to impeach the governor, and that threats of violence from the Jaw people and so on and so forth should be ignored, because I mean they don't have a monopoly on violence. Is that adding fuel to the fire?
I think it is. So heaven has never fallen. Heaven doesn't fall. Heaven stays where it is. So that
unless you're chicken licking.
Yeah. So heaven
the sky fell on chicken licking's head.
So heaven has never fallen. But believe me, trouble has a way of being brewed and being stirred. And I don't think we want to test the waters. We don't want to test the resolve of whether people can come to violence. So let's take what he says. You don't have a monopoly of violence as an Ijaw person. So, agreed. You don't have a monopoly of violence. So what does that mean? That violence will meet violence. So there will be a war in Rivers State where the Ijaws are fighting and I don't know who Ikweres are fighting. So we want to have a civil war in Rivers State, and that's the way out. Does that make sense? So Ijaws say that don't impeach. If you impeach, we'll come out and we'll battle you. We say, no problem. We're going to impeach. When you come out, we're also coming out. And there will be blood on the street. Who is dying? Rivers men and Rivers women, Rivers children on Rivers soil. No sensible government fights a war in their own land. They carry it outside. They take it out. At the end of the day, the devastation is yours. When Russia was fighting, they didn't fight in Russia, they went to Ukraine. When they're fighting in Gaza, they're going out. Everybody leaves their own territory, peace, and they go out. And we are sitting down in Rivers State and saying, you know what, bring it on. It just come out and fight. We Ikweres will come out and we'll fight, and we'll kill each other on the ground in Rivers State, and it's okay. I'm okay with that. I am not okay with it.
And on that sensible note, I want to thank you very much indeed for coming in. Tonya Cole is the APC governorship candidate in the 2023 election. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Charles.
Keep climbing the mountains. Although